Welcome to Aging Insights. I'm Grace Egan, Executive Director of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. The Foundation's mission is to enable seniors to live with independence and dignity in their communities. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging to provide information and resources to caregivers, seniors, and boomers. We know that about 75% of New Jersey's single elders and elder couples are homeowners, and their housing costs usually include a mortgage, utility, and taxes. In most cases, a senior's housing cost is frequently the highest percentage of their monthly costs if they are in good health. We have documented this fact in the New Jersey Elder Index. So today's program will focus on tax relief, which will assist an elder in reducing their housing costs. We have two knowledgeable experts with us today, Alexis DeRosa, Taxpayer Service Representative from the New Jersey Division of Taxation, their Training and Outreach Unit, and her colleague Kevin Boyle, Field Representative, who will talk about local property tax, and he's also from the New Jersey Division of Taxation. Thank you for being here today. Alexis, I know you do a lot of community programs, which I think is very helpful. So let's start with some basics. Would you please explain what the Property Tax Reimbursement Program is?
Property tax reimbursement, which is also commonly known as the senior freeze. It doesn't exactly freeze property taxes, but what it does is it gives senior citizens or disabled individuals the opportunity, if they're qualified, to receive a reimbursement on the amount of increase in their property taxes. In order to qualify for the program, you must first be age 65 or older or disabled. You also must have been a resident of New Jersey for 10 consecutive years. You must have owned and lived in your current home for 3 years. Your property taxes must be paid in full. And there's also an income limit. The income limit will change every year. Currently, our income limit for this current filing season will be $84,289.
So when you say this current year,
Yes.
So is it a look back? Presumably.
Yes, that's exactly right. So just as though we are filing our 2013 taxes in the year of 2014, the income requirement that I just quoted would be for the year 2013.
I see, I see. And what kind of income sources does a person need to identify on the application?
I'm glad that you asked that because they do vary from what is reported on the New Jersey income tax return. It would be what is reported on the income tax return, but there's also some other income sources that aren't normally included, such as unemployment, Social Security. Those are the most popular ones. What's really great is in the application, there's an itemized list of exactly what is considered income for qualifications and what is considered exempt, so they can follow that as a guide when filling out their application.
All right, and I know I probably didn't ask you this before, but in order to see the application, what's the best? Do you see it online? Do you go to a tax office? What's the?
We do the very best that we can to try and match age data or Social Security disability status data and get those applications out to as many people that we see qualified. But if you are qualified and you don't receive an application, there's many different ways that you can obtain them. The best way would be to go to our website, which is www.njtaxation.org. Applications are not available yet. They should become available around mid-February. But other areas would be our regional information centers, as well as our customer service hotline as well.
Is there a deadline for filing?
There is a deadline for filing. This year's deadline is June 2nd. In the past, we've seen quite a bit of extension with the deadline. So look for an extension that's usually announced close to the deadline, but we encourage everyone to get theirs filed as soon as possible.
And what happens if your property taxes are not up to date?
Okay, that does sometimes happen. There is a bit of a leeway with the qualifications. We do require that the property taxes are paid in full in order to qualify for the program. However, they do have an extension of time to have them paid, and we extend that to June 1st of the qualifying year. So in other words, 2013 property taxes must be paid in full by June 1st of 2014 in order to qualify for this filing season.
Okay, so, and what happens if you're slightly over?
The income limit? Okay. If you do exceed the income limit, unfortunately, you do not qualify for the current season. However, we've progressively seen the income limit increase on an annual basis. So what we encourage people to do is to check back February of the following year to see if they qualify.
And if you qualify 1 year, but your sources of income change, what can someone do that? I mean, if they have an inheritance or they have to take an IRA payout, what happens then?
In the instance of, say, an IRA payout or maybe a sell of stock, something that would commonly happen, unfortunately, if they exceed the income limit, they will be having to reestablish in the program once they qualify again. So high income will unfortunately kick them out of the program and they'll have to reestablish.
Okay. And I guess if you're seriously behind in paying your property taxes, I guess that would kick you out as well.
Unfortunately, yes, that would be the case.
Can someone apply at their local municipal tax collector's office?
I'm glad you asked that. Actually, there is a requirement with the program to supply proof of property taxes being paid. There is a form included with the application that is required to be filled out and certified by the local municipality. And they're used to doing that because the program's been around for quite a few years. But that needs to be certified at the local township. But if you need assistance with completing the actual application, that would be done through the Division of Taxation. We could help at our regional information centers, and then there's also volunteer areas that are set up throughout the state, such as libraries and senior centers.
Okay. Sometimes when we do training sessions, we talk about the Elder Index, and we realize that about 47% of someone's monthly expenses are really their housing expenses. And if they're in good health, it's about 19%. So it's a significant bump up, I have to say, in terms of what their housing costs are. So you mentioned that this is frequently called the senior property freeze. It's a senior freeze, tax freeze. But at the same time, it's not necessarily freezing the taxes. So can you explain basically what percentage of reimbursement somebody is presumably seeing?
Certainly. We call it the freeze just as it's kind of like a slang, and it kind of it's more remembrance than property tax reimbursement. People also commonly refer to it as the blue application as well, because the packet is usually blue. But basically what will happen is in your first year of filing, you're going to file an application called PTR-1. And in order for us to determine how much your property taxes went up, you would have to establish what we call a base year. Okay? So the first year you apply, let's say if it was this current year, you would be applying for both 2012 and 2013.
We might be getting too complicated, but
yeah,
go ahead.
I understand. But basically, just so you can have a point of reference, what would happen is the state would reimburse that particular individual the difference between their 2012 and 13 taxes, as long as they increased. So for example, if your taxes went up $500 from 2012 to 2013, they would presumably receive a $500 reimbursement for the program.
Well, that's pretty clear.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. So I know there are some other benefits programs too, and so I want to make sure that we touch on those. The homestead benefit.
Yes, homestead benefit.
Used to be called the homestead rebate.
That's correct.
We don't call that anymore. So let's talk about that, and then maybe we'll go back to the senior freeze as well.
Okay. Homestead benefit is available to a lot more individuals in the state of New Jersey. Homestead benefit is actually available to homeowners in general. And our magic date at the division is October 1st. You have to be owning and residing in the residence as of October 1st of the filing year in order to qualify for receiving a homestead benefit. There's also an income limit that comes with homestead benefit as well. For individuals that are filing under 65 years of age and not disabled, their income would have to be $75,000 or less. For individuals filing as 65 or older or disabled, their income must be $150,000 or less.
So that's why you say this program, the homestead benefit, affects more people.
Yes,
I see.
That is correct.
I understand.
Yes.
Because there's a income eligibility with the senior freeze, as well.
Correct.
But it doesn't apply to people that are under age 65 or who are not disabled.
That's exactly right. Another difference that's pretty big with the program is the property tax reimbursement actually gets released to the filer as a check. They receive a payment in hand. The homestead benefit, rather, as opposed to receiving a check as the rebate did in the past, the amount that they would have received is now applied directly to their tax bill, their property tax bill.
When we talk about the senior property freeze, we often have to remind people it's a reimbursement.
That's correct.
And so the homestead benefit is going forward or just taken off?
It's just basically credited back is what happens. But what we see is we file, and then it's credited in a future quarter, and we receive, all of us that are homeowners would receive an amended property tax bill showing the amount that was actually credited, so we have record of that.
And how does someone apply for the homestead benefit?
Homestead benefit applications are sent out automatically.
Oh, that's right, you
We
said
just
that.
actually wrapped up our filing season. It ended January 31st for last filing season. The applications, we call them, I always refer to them as the green packet where you tear off the edges.
Green and blue.
The
Very
green and
colorful.
blue,
Okay.
yes. It helps you remember, right? So the green packet usually comes in the fall. And a deadline is set, and then it's usually extended. This year it was extended to January 31st, so I would encourage everyone to mark it on your calendars to look for the
Right.
green packet in the fall.
Yeah. Both of these programs, it seems to me that they could be very helpful for somebody who's really living on a very tight budget, especially since there are some costs you really can't control, and property taxes does happen to be one of them. Do we know if all of the eligible seniors that should be applying are participating?
That's a great question, and it's one of the reasons why we're so happy that you asked us to be here today, because we like to go out and educate people on the things that are available to them. And the unfortunate part about that question is that we do know that there are some individuals that just don't know about the program. So we're hoping that, by education, going out and speaking at senior centers and local libraries, and also events such as this, that we can publicize that these programs are out there for individuals to give them assistance.
So are you on the road all the time?
We're on the road quite a bit. We are quite a bit. A lot of the things that we focus on are income tax trainings as well as business tax, but one of our main focuses in the unit as well is property tax relief education. And as I said, going to senior centers as well as local libraries to bring together groups and communities to make them aware of what's available.
And I know we're really in the middle of tax season, and
Yes.
Many of the senior centers have the VITA program, which is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance.
Yes.
So I know that we will be putting that website on the screen as well, so people can find local resources to help them with their income tax. Do people need to file income taxes to be eligible for both of these benefits?
No, they do not. They're not required. So income tax would be something separate. If they're required to file income tax returns, they would be required. But these are two
Required to
completely...
apply.
Exactly.
Okay.
But in this aspect, they're basically, if you qualify, you can file.
Okay, well, it certainly seems like there's a lot of assistance out there, which is really what we want to do. We want to connect caregivers, seniors, and boomers to these programs. And sometimes it's the adult child that says, Mom, did you apply?
Yes. Yes.
Or, Uncle Harry, did you know you could get this? And so I want to now ask Kevin a variety of questions about local property tax programs, because municipalities do offer a lot of assistance.
Correct.
And so, Kevin, can you give us a general idea about the local property tax programs that are available?
The two primary ones I'll talk about today are a $250 deduction for senior citizens and disabled citizens, and a $250 deduction for veterans. Both of those are established in the Constitution of the state.
State Constitution.
State Constitution. The 250 senior and disabled is based on an income limit of $10,000 a year. There are exclusions that are allowable. One of the three you have to pick from. It's either Social Security, a state, local, or county pension, or fire, police, that sort of thing, or a federal or railroad pension. The amount of exclusion is up to the Social Security maximum payment, which for 2013 was $30,396. You're required to apply by October 1st.
Okay, so let's just break that up a little bit.
Okay.
So You have to have income below $10,000.
Below $10,000,
Okay.
minus those exclusions.
Minus
So
those exclusions. So if you happen to be in the upper Social Security benefit, which is, we really feel that the average Social Security for a woman in New Jersey is about $14,000, but many, many people really still only get $700 or $800 a month. So they're not up to that average. For a man, the average is about $17,000 because it's slightly higher than a woman's.
Right.
But so if someone gets the higher payout, that could be one of their exclusions.
right, you can only have one exclusion of those three. So usually it's your highest payment. You know, if, let's say you
Interesting.
work for the state government and you're also drawing Social Security. If you're making $20,000 a year on the state pension and $15,000 on the Social Security, you'll deduct or exclude the state pension.
Right. But you're still over
You would be in that case.
in that case, yeah.
Not the best example.
Not the best, well, but it's interesting, the idea that you can self-select. I think that's a very interesting
and
option.
It combines, if you have spouses, the benefit increases depending on the status of both with Social Security. So if they're both working, you would get the maximum benefit for the couple. You know, it would be $60,000 and change. Don't have the math off the top of my head right now. And then it varies based on the eligibility of each spouse for Social Security payments. That'll determine your maximum exclusion.
When we put the program together, I thought it's very complicated. Taxes are very complicated. So whether it's the state property tax program or whether it's local, but nevertheless, I think it's an important piece to offer to our viewers to understand what they might be eligible for or what their neighbors might be able to claim as a benefit that they haven't in the past. So what are the other local property tax programs?
Okay, the other is the veterans deduction, and that's for wartime service veterans. The conflicts that we include are World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam as the wars. That's any active service during that period of time that's defined by statute is considered eligible. There's a number that are considered peacekeeping missions, which include the current conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, Somalia, Grenada,
Really?
several others, and that you have to have 14 days in the combat zone unless you were injured in the combat zone, in which case any service time up to the point of injury will count.
Oh, so let me ask another question. So the veterans benefit, does it presume you're disabled or you're just a veteran?
Just a veteran. There's a separate one for disabled veterans. That's a exemption from property taxes.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that.
Yes.
So, but I know I asked you on the phone, I just sort of said, well, what about Bosnia? And you
Right.
said,
Bosnia does count. That also includes the airspace above Bosnia. 'Cause
which is really interesting.
right, because they figured that a lot of the way the statute's usually written is that you had to be on the ground in the country, and I think since we weren't operating on the ground in Bosnia, they included the airspace because there were so many veterans that were just in the Air Force and Marine Air Corps doing their job that way.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's, it's nice to see that it's such a long list that you provided. So, so how does a veteran apply?
Both the veteran and the seniors will apply to the tax assessor between October 1st and December 31st of the pre-tax year, as in the year before the year you're trying to get the benefit for. So
This is interesting because it's different.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, you have one that's a reimbursement and June, and then you have October, and now we're talking about.
Yeah, October to December 31st for the assessor. After that period of time, if you apply during the tax year for when you're trying to claim the benefit, you go to the tax collector because at that point, they're the ones handling the applications. And since they're sending out bills at that point, they're the ones who need to be on the list doing the deduction.
And so say again what the last deadline is for filing.
For
January?
the tax year itself is December 31st of that tax year. You can apply up to the very last
okay.
day, but you would have issues because you can appeal, and the deadline for that is April 1st to the county tax board, but you'd have to push that back to the next year if you applied afterward.
So are there income guidelines for the veterans
The
program?
veterans do not have an income limitation, unlike the seniors and disabled.
Well, I think that's very helpful. And you did touch on the the disabled vet program, which I have to say the first time I heard about it, I went, that couldn't possibly be true. And so it was very interesting. It came up, actually it came up with a victim from Sandy. and it was somebody who had a house at the shore, and they said that this gentleman did not pay any property taxes, and so I was befuddled. So why don't you explain how it works?
The veterans exemption, you have to be 100% disabled as declared by the United States Veterans Administration.
Does it presume conflict?
It does. It's the same conflict, wartime service requirements as the deduction. So active duty and time of war. If you're injured on the base and you're in one of those periods of time when we weren't, at war as defined by statute, you wouldn't qualify. It only applies to your primary residence, and you only get it for one house. So, if you have a house, that you live in a shore house, you're only going to get it on the primary residence. The exemption is treated as other exemptions from property taxes, like churches, colleges, hospitals. Where it's on an exempt list, and the cost for their tax burden is spread amongst the other taxpayers. But in the cases of the veterans' houses, unless they're in a multi-million-dollar home, it's going to be less than a penny per person per tax bill in the end.
Right. So I guess I wanted to just sort of explain. So if something is a nonprofit, or as you said, a church or whatever, the veteran, it's the same type of exclusion. It's just money the municipality doesn't really have.
Right.
So as you say, they
Right.
make it up in different ways.
Right. So they,
Okay.
they already know when they're budgeting, they're not going to have this
Right.
line item on there, so they don't have to worry about it. As opposed to the $250 deduction, it's reimbursed by the state for both through revenue sharing.
So you both really have talked about some programs that might seem a little complicated. So what kind of assistance is out there to help someone file for these programs?
For my programs, mostly you could go to the local tax office.
Okay.
The collector and the assessor tend to be together in most municipalities. They'll offer assistance to you. If they can't help, or they're very busy, certain times of the year the assessor especially is
Right.
out doing their assessments to make up for or to get ready for October 1st assessment date. You can call the Division of Taxation to assist with your application.
And we'll put that number
Yes.
across the screen.
We're there to help. For the veterans, the local county veterans offices are there to help, and the New Jersey Division of Military and Veterans Affairs can also assist you.
Yeah, that's great. We've did a very extensive program on veteran services, which I have to say is as complicated as tax services. And so what about the state programs?
Yes. One of the main places that you can visit at any time, day or night, would be the division's website.
Okay.
If you would like face-to-face service, which a lot of people commonly like, I know that probably across the screen there will probably be a list of our regional information centers. We have very skilled, very experienced taxpayer service representatives available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. In 7 locations throughout the state of New Jersey, where people can actually bring their documents with them and actually have things filled out for them.
That's
and one of
helpful.
those, is the property tax reimbursement applications. It's really nice to be able to ask questions face to face and to actually get that real-time assistance. And they are available as well. There's also hotlines as well, which I'm sure will be on the screen available, that you can call also between the same hours, 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday.
And how long is the application process? I mean, I guess after you submit it, what's the approval time?
Okay, generally the first round of checks, we have a deadline of June 1st. The first round of checks will be released on July 15th. That's usually been standard for years to come. People who file later, if the deadline gets extended or whatever the case may be, may receive their checks later on. But it's a pretty quick
That's great.
turnaround time.
And is there ever need for an appeal process?
There could possibly be.
Okay.
If there ever is a chance or a situation where an application is denied, there will be a formal denial and determination that will be furnished to the filer. And if that does come down the pike, as for most items in the division, there is always a way of appeal. And those methods are itemized within the notice depending upon what type of notice it is, and they would follow proceedings in that manner.
Well, as I said, I think this is really important information. So how would people reach the division or the training and outreach unit to kind of schedule a presentation for their group?
Certainly. We do have a web box set up, an email box set up where people can reach us, and that is outreach.tax@trez.state treasury.nj.us.
Okay, and TRES is the shortened version for Treasury.
Treasury, correct, TREAS.
That's right. Well, I think that's very helpful. And is it the same for property tax, or do you see the offering for both at the same time?
Generally, we are the division's outreach. I know that Kevin as well does some outreach as
Yeah,
well.
we tend to go with the outreach program people when they need us to go in, especially post Hurricane Sandy. We were doing a lot of
Right.
outreach.
Is there any last minute, urging people to apply, or that you would like to get on camera?
Yes. One last thing, I think one of the most common questions is, in regards to property tax reimbursement and homestead benefit, can I file for and can I receive both? And the answer is, if you are qualified, yes, you may.
Yes.
Okay, yes, you may. So we encourage everybody to please file.
It's those income eligibilities that you need to just see if you're eligible.
Right.
Right, and the homestead benefit is for people that are 65 and under 65.
Right.
So I
That's
think that's
right.
important to understand. So I think this is very informative, so I appreciate you both being here.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging and is made possible by donations to the foundation. To become a sponsor for Aging Insights programs, please go to our website at www.njfoundationforaging.org, or you can call our office at 609-421-0206. And on our website, you'll see an online survey about Aging Insights. Feel free to provide your comments on this show and perhaps other topics that we should offer in the future. We want to remind you to find out about senior services in your area. You can contact your County Office on Aging, also known as your Aging and Disability Resource Connection in your county. They will have a list of the VITA centers as well. Their numbers are on our website, or you may call the state hotline number at 1-877-222-3737. Thank you for watching this episode of Aging Insights. And remember, aging is everyone's business.